Vaccination has begun inconsistently. Hi there, here we go once again for plain English, this time lesson number 332. I'm Jeff, JR is the producer, and the full lesson is online at plainenglish.com/332. Coming up today, it's starting. Healthcare workers, seniors, and people with chronic conditions are being vaccinated against COVID-19, but the rollout has been anything but smooth in the rich world, and the developing world is still trying to determine what vaccines to get and how to get them. The expression is make arrangements, and we have a quote of the week. The biggest vaccination effort in world history is underway. It hasn't gone perfectly so far, but there are reasons for optimism. Let's start with the difficulties. The first vaccines approved by strict regulators were the Pfizer-BioNTech and the Moderna vaccines. They were approved in December by the US and the UK. The first countries to get these vaccines were mostly rich countries that placed initial orders. There have been logistical stumbles out of the gate. Both Britain and the US have not been able to get the doses into enough arms. By mid-January, the US had delivered only about a third of the vaccines that had been shipped to delivery locations. France and the Netherlands had barely begun. A second difficulty is the approach. Not every country has prioritized urgency in getting its population vaccinated. France, for example, requires that people give written consent to be vaccinated 5 days before receiving the shot. While getting consent will build support in a country skeptical of vaccination, the 5-day waiting period is slowing down delivery. Developing countries have different challenges. For them, the first problem is getting their hands on the vaccine. Most developing countries will not be able to get the Moderna or Pfizer vaccines in 2021 because richer countries have bought up all the supplies and because they require careful handling. But there are other options. A third vaccine by Oxford University and AstraZeneca will soon be available. This vaccine is easier to distribute because it doesn't require complicated refrigeration. It's also much cheaper and easier to manufacture, so it can be produced at many locations around the world. But each production location must be certified, and only 2 of the 9 production locations have been approved to begin. Production of this vaccine, then, is not getting off to the fastest possible start. Geopolitics is also involved. China and Russia have developed vaccines that they did not submit to the world's strictest regulatory bodies for approval. They both accelerated approval, prioritizing speed over widespread transparent testing. A vaccine developed in India has received approval from India's government, but many people warn the approval was given before extensive stage 3 trial data was released. That doesn't mean the vaccines are dangerous or ineffective, only that they haven't been subjected to the kind of scrutiny that other vaccines have been. So that inevitably leads to political struggles as developing countries have to choose whether to take a risk with the vaccines from Russia and China or to wait for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Differing political opinions can lower overall acceptance of vaccination among the population. The final problem comes from Mother Nature herself. New mutations of the coronavirus discovered in South Africa and the United Kingdom spread much faster than previous strains, adding to the urgency of vaccination. So those are the challenges. Nobody said this would be easy, but there are also reasons for optimism. The new strain is spreading much more quickly than before, but countries are adapting. The UK, Germany, and the US will be modifying the dosage of their early vaccines to speed up vaccination. Instead of giving each participant 2 doses a few weeks apart, the new approach is to give as many people the first dose as possible and wait 3 months or more to administer the second dose. The first dose of the vaccine provides some protection, just not as much as 2 doses. The new approach means that each vaccinated person will receive less protection against the coronavirus, but the population as a whole benefits because more people get that initial protection. This shows flexibility and responsiveness to the immediate need to get as much coverage as possible. The results from the UK, Germany, and the US will provide valuable data to other countries. There is also good news about the Sinovac vaccine from China. Stage 3 trials in Brazil showed the Sinovac vaccine was 78% effective. In Bahrain, trials showed another vaccine from China, Sinopharm, is over 80% effective. This should boost public acceptance of these 2 vaccines. Finally, COVAX offers hope that all countries will get vaccine doses in 2021 regardless of income level. COVAX is the initiative sponsored by the World Health Organization, and it has already arranged for 2 billion doses that can be distributed to 190 countries. COVAX is continuing to make arrangements for more doses with vaccine makers. Higher income countries may boost their donations to COVAX soon. Before any vaccine was proven effective, rich countries placed orders with several vaccine makers. That means they have reserved more doses than they need. Canada has reserved enough doses to vaccinate its whole population 5 times. So it's likely that rich countries will release their reserved but unneeded doses to COVAX after they start delivering vaccines to their own populations. It's also important never to underestimate the possibility that politicians will make grave errors, and Mother Nature may yet deliver another unexpected blow. But the world has many vaccines to choose from. The rich world is committed to providing doses to every country, regardless of income, and no vaccine has had to be recalled. So yes, the rollout has been imperfect, but there is still a lot to be thankful for. I hope your 2021 is off to a good start. If improving English is among your New Year's resolutions, then remember Plain English can help. Our website has free transcripts of every lesson, plus an extra word or phrase from the lesson that I don't have time to talk about. I haven't mentioned this in a while, but it's called Learn the Lingo, and it's an informal word or phrase that I use that I don't think is worth explaining in detail, but I think you'd like to know about it. And that's on each lesson webpage, and it's free right alongside the transcripts. Now, if you sign up as a free member on the site, you'll get your very own homepage with easy links to explore all our old lessons. So from the homepage, plainenglish.com, just click Join and sign up for a free membership, and you'll get all that with every lesson at plainenglish.com. Today's expression is to make arrangements. To make arrangements for something is to prepare to get it or prepare to do it. Around the world, governments are making arrangements to vaccinate their populations. They are preparing to do it. This is a general, non-specific way of saying that they are working on it. They're trying. When a country is making arrangements to vaccinate its population, it's doing what's necessary to vaccinate its population. So what is that? First, it's got to contact the vaccine manufacturer and place an order. Later, it needs to give regulatory approval. Then, it needs a plan to distribute it. That might mean there are additional regulations or guidelines to be published. All those things count as making arrangements. It's the general preparation, the things necessary. We're going to make arrangements for the kids to go to summer camp this year. What does that mean if you hear a parent say that? It means you're going to do everything you need to do to get those kids out of the house for a few weeks this summer. You're going to research camps, choose a week, put down your deposit, figure out how you're going to get there, plan something for mom and dad to do while the kids are away. To make arrangements for the kids to go to camp is to do all the things needed for them to go to summer camp this year. You might plan something with friends or coworkers. After you all decide what to do, you might look around the room and ask who is going to make all the arrangements. That means who's going to do the planning. We say make arrangements to do an action or make arrangements for someone or something. When I went on vacation in August, I made arrangements to take 2 weeks off from plain English. That didn't mean I skipped a week of lessons. It just means that I did 2 full weeks worth of work ahead of time so that I could be away. Then I left JR in charge and crossed my fingers. I made arrangements to take those weeks off. So we say make arrangements to plus the verb take a week off. You say make arrangements for a thing. For example, I'll make the arrangements for next week's meeting. That means I'll reserve the room, send out the agenda, order lunch, whatever is needed. Make arrangements for. If you need to have surgery, the hospital might tell you to make arrangements to get a ride home. After surgery, you might not be feeling well enough to drive yourself, so you'll need to make arrangements to get a ride home. The hospital will say make arrangements because everyone will have a different way of getting a ride home. Some people will be married and their spouse will drive them. Others might ask a friend. Some people might not have a close friend to ask, so they'll have to order a taxi. It's not the hospital's business, and they don't want to be impolite, so they might say make arrangements to get a ride home. Here's another time you might say make arrangements when you don't want to be more specific. When someone has died, you might ask who in the family is making funeral arrangements. You might offer to help with any of the arrangements if you're a close family member. Make arrangements is a polite way of referring to everything that needs to be done without saying those things out loud. You don't want to say who is choosing the casket or who's setting the date and time of the funeral or who's paying for all this. Don't say that. You might want to ask who's doing those things, but you don't want to say the words out loud. So the more polite way to say it is who's making the arrangements, who's doing those necessary things. I've been doing some research on copywriting lately. Copywriting is determining the words to put on web pages and such. The key is to get your message across in as few words as possible. Reducing the number of words is hard work. It's hard to write short content. So, as I was reading some guides about this, I came across this quote. It's by the French philosopher Blaise Pascal. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's like a joke. It's the way he closed a letter to a friend. He said, "I have made this longer than usual because I have not had time to make it shorter." I like that because everybody thinks it takes a long time to write a lot, but it really takes a long time to write a little, but still get your message across. So here's how he closed his letter, his long letter to a friend. He said, "I have made this longer than usual because I have not had time to make it shorter." So that's all for today's lesson. He didn't have time to edit out all the unimportant parts, so he left it in. Remember, there's a lot more on the website for each lesson. This lesson is at plainenglish.com/332. And if you're a Plus member, you get a step-by-step video walkthrough on how to describe a low probability outcome, how to describe something that might happen, but there's a low chance of it happening. Plus, remember all the listening and pronunciation exercises that we always have, and that's all at plainenglish.com/332. Coming up on Thursday, look up in the sky. It might be a Boeing 737 MAX. The troubled plane is back on the schedule at airlines in the US and Brazil. And we'll talk about what has changed since the plane was grounded about 2 years ago. That's on Thursday. Until then, keep up the good work and remember to practice with us at plainenglish.com.